Okay, so this is the first of a series of three essays that explain a topic I've touched on, but I think there are some people who are in one of these communities or one of these parts of the world, and you might not understand like what it means for you. So I hope this kind of clarifies a few things. So here's the first essay. Reunification: Why a California-Mexico Convergence is More Possible Than We Think. Redefining nationhood. In a world where climate migration, global capitalism, and digital citizenship are reshaping traditional ideas of borders, the idea of California realigning with Mexico is no longer belongs purely to the realm of fantasy. Though legally unthinkable under current U.S. constitutional law, the convergence of California and Mexico is not about war or annexation. It's about identity, economy, and the slow burn of demographic and cultural reunification. Historical foundations of unity. Before it was ever part of the United States, California was Alta California, a region of Mexico with its own ranching culture, mestizo heritage, and indigenous legacy. These ties didn't disappear after the Mexican American War, they were forcibly severed. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo may have drawn a line on a map, but bloodlines, families, and culture continue to flow across the artificial border. That memory still exists and may be reviewed in the form of soft reunification. California's cultural gravity. California today is not just a state, it's a cultural empire. It sets trends for language, education, and policy across the Western Hemisphere. Over 40% of Californians are Latino, and Spanish is embedded in the state's institutions, from signage to school systems to government documents. In a sense, California already operates as a bilingual, bicultural entity that shares more in common with Mexico City than it does with Mississippi. Demographic realignment is already happening. Latinos are not a minority in California. They are the majority, and that matters. A young, upwardly mobile, bilingual population with deep ties to Latin America through family, remittances, and media is reshaping what it means to be a Californian. Cultural institutions like Univision, reggaeton concerts, Dia de los Muertos parades, and panaderias are not exotic, they are central. California isn't becoming Mexico, it's becoming a binational hybrid. Economics favor integration. California is the fifth largest economy in the world, and Mexico is among the U.S.'s top trading partners. NAFTA, now USMCA, already ties their economies together, but imagine if that partnership were formalized through shared infrastructure projects, energy agreements, and climate adaptation policy. The maquiladora model, Mexican labor supporting U.S. capital, could evolve into a true cross-border industrial zone and shared ownership and governance. Mexico benefits from California's political power. In a hypothetical merger or federation, Mexico gains the technological, cultural, and economic strength of Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and green energy innovation. Mexico also gains 39 million Mexican American citizens who could shift the nation's global soft power almost overnight. This is not about absorbing California, it's about upgrading both parties through an intentional and symbolic reunification. Political autonomy within a greater union. There is precedent for this kind of arrangement. Think of the European Union, where sovereign countries share law, currency, labor, and governance without losing national identities. Or look at Hong Kong, which operated under a one country, two systems policy for decades. A federated California-Mexico bloc could explore similar models, starting with cross-border infrastructure, labor agreements, and joint environmental policy. The rise of post-national identity. Younger Californians increasingly see themselves as global citizens, and the idea of being American doesn't mean loyalty to a flag. It means freedom to move, build, and align with values. If Mexico offered dual citizenship, climate resilience, and transnational investment opportunities, many Californians might choose soft integration over staying in an increasingly divided and right wing United States. Collapse of federal legitimacy. Let's not ignore the U.S.'s own internal disintegration. The federal government is increasingly dysfunctional, unable to pass basic legislation, and losing legitimacy in the eyes of millions. In the event of civil unrest, ecological crisis, or political collapse, California would be better prepared to realign than to cling to a broken union. Mexico may offer more stability and not less. Immigrant rights as a catalyst. California has already legalized undocumented immigrants' access to healthcare, education, and driver's licenses. These policies are more aligned with Mexican solidarity than U.S. nationalism. If federal immigration laws become even more hostile, California may be forced to create its own cross border amnesty framework, further pushing it into Mexico's political and humanitarian orbit. Indigenous border reclamation. Before there were nations, there were indigenous peoples. Tonva, Kumeyaay, Ohlone, and many more whose territories crossed what is now the U.S.-Mexico border. A California-Mexico convergence could be an opportunity to restore sovereignty and land stewardship to Native communities across both territories, allowing for deeper spiritual and ecological realignment. The new global South starts here. California and Mexico together would represent a unique new force in the global stage, a climate-forward, multicultural, post-colonial power that blends the global North's capital with the global South's labor resilience. This realignment wouldn't just disrupt the Western Hemisphere, it would reshape how nations imagine sovereignty, especially in the face of mass migration and climate change. The U.S. can't stop what it can't control. Even if the federal government resists any formal breakaway, it cannot stop cultural, economic, and infrastructural convergence. Water rights, power grids, tech supply chains, and labor markets are already linked. The more Washington tries to tighten its grip, the more attractive soft convergence becomes, not as rebellion, but as survival. Not a breakup, but a reunion. It's not about secession or colonization, it's about reunion. California and Mexico were once part of the same land, the same families, the same future. The 21st century exposes the limits of traditional nationalism, and the idea of convergence offers a third path, not exit, not submission, but evolution. It's not just possible, it's already happening. The only question is, will we name it?